I've been fourth and fifth and sixth a bunch of times at all kinds of national championships, but I've never podiumed before. Like, I really wanted to, I actually learned this from Grayson Murphy. You can only control certain things. You can't control everything. So it's kind of nice to have like A, B, and C goals. And so my A goal was to win the race. My B goal was to podium, and my C goal was to also run really fast. And I got B and C. Hi, I'm Lauren Hagans. I am a long-distance professional runner who is sponsored by HOKA NAZ Elite and trains in Flagstaff, Arizona.
Women's running. Women's running stories. Yes, in this episode, we are featuring Lauren, and you may know her better as Lauren Paquette. She has changed her name back to Lauren Hagans, so you can expect to hear her referred to by that name going forward. And welcome to Women's Running Stories. We're a proud member of the Evergreen Podcast Network. I am Cherie Louise Turner, your host and producer. In this episode, we're doing something slightly different in that we are mostly honing in on one event. I was really excited about the recent USATF Half Marathon National Championship that just took place last weekend on Sunday, February 26th, and Lauren was key to how that race played out. She did finish a very close second place to her teammate Alafine Tilliamuk to land her first podium finish at a national championship, so congratulations to Lauren on that. And I was just really excited to get the inside scoop on how everything went down. Lauren also goes into a little bit about why she wasn't racing last year, what was going on there, and why she's looking forward to this year. If you aren't super familiar with Lauren's racing career, just know that she has been a top competitor for a long, long time at various distances. The half marathon is the longest distance that she has raced to date, but stick around till the end. You'll hear how that's about to change pretty soon here. And she has been a member of the NAZ HOKA Elite team out of Flagstaff, Arizona since January 2020. And speaking of that team, Lauren does mention another one of her teammates that went through a name change. You may know her as Paige Stoner, and now she is Paige Wood. So let's get to it. Lauren starts off by giving us a little insight into what was going on last year that was keeping her from racing, and then she's going to tell us all about the half marathon. Here's Lauren.
This year, I'm really excited about because last year I was injured for about 10 months of the year and really wasn't getting to race, and I love to race. And so I've really just been this year in 2023 just focusing on getting back into high-level racing. I felt so rusty after last year that I've just been trying to not worry too much about outcome, but just focusing on just getting to races, feeling healthy and excited and grateful to be back on the starting line. I have it's like really just like really bad sciatica. So I have like a neural, I guess, disorder, you would call it. Yeah, like it just took me out of everything last year and caused all these problems like muscularly for me. And I think what was so hard about it is I couldn't figure out what was wrong with me for a while. I kept getting misdiagnosed and finally figured it out. And then it's actually, the treatment is very simple, but you just have to do it every day. But, it's hard to know how to fix something when you don't know what's wrong. So once I finally figured that out, like now I'm like good, but man, I was just so rusty. And so and I didn't think that was even a thing for longer distances. It's not like it's the 800, but it is a thing, I think. And some of it is just like not being in the competition mindset too for a while, some of it's just like, oh yeah, this is really hard. And so I had been training really well last fall, but then I got super, super sick with like a sister of the flu virus. And it just kind of like derailed my training for like a month. And so that was November, December. I'd planned on racing Houston half marathon. And then I just decided, my coach and I, Alan Culpepper, and I decided closer to that I just wasn't quite ready for it. And I just wanted to make sure I had all the tools when I actually lined up for a long race like that, that I could do some damage. And so I got over being sick like mid-December, and I've really just been putting in like solid, the new thing now is, threshold work. And so that's basically what we've been doing. I haven't really done I've done a lot of threshold work in the past, but maybe not specifically like what we've been doing lately. But yeah, it's been me and Paige and Alphine doing these kind of workouts together the last probably like 6 weeks. The three of us, at least, we've been doing just a lot of like really high level, like tempo runs, longer, like 2 mile intervals. And I guess like the last two key workouts for this race that we did was we did a 10-mile tempo up at 7,000 feet, which is my longest tempo ever. And I averaged like 5:36 up there, which, and it was kind of a cut down tempo where we started pretty conservative for us at 5:45. And then I was able to cut down to 5:19 by the end. So it averaged out to be 5:36. And it's just interesting for different people because this is kind of like sciencey, I guess. But, like the reason you train at altitude is to promote like red blood cell production so you can deliver oxygen to your muscles more efficiently. It just develops your aerobic system. But everyone's a little different, but you have a conversion factor down to sea level. So like I kind of have a bigger conversion where like if I'm averaging 5:35, that's pretty much like me running like about 15 seconds a mile quicker at sea level. So like 5:20. And so that's a good like indicator type workout. And then I raced a 10K on the roads 2 weeks before the half marathon championships and ran like a 40-second PR in the 10K on the road and ran 31:52. And that race was kind of a setup for the half marathon champs to just run faster than I was going to run at the half champs. That was 5:07 pace for 6.2 miles for 10K. And then I had one more really key workout in between the 10K and a half, and that was 4x2 miles at this town called Camp Verde, which is lower elevation than Flagstaff. It's about 3,500 feet. And I ran 5:15 pace for 4x2 miles. And it felt hard, but also just like comfortably hard. And so, so that's really the kind of work that we do. And we'll do like K repeats or like we'll do some turnover stuff, but it's really just a lot of good, solid aerobic work. And yeah, I mean, the race this past Sunday in Fort Worth, I just was so happy to be out there because I just missed it so much. And I knew that my teammates and I, Alphine Tuliamic and Paige Wood, had been training really hard. And we have such a good team that, I mean, it's, like you really have to be on at all times. But if you're not on a certain day at practice, you have your teammates to help pull you through. And then we're all just in really good shape right now. So we had been talking about trying to go 1, 2, 3 at the half champs. And I just had a feeling that it was going to kind of come down to me and one of my teammates, just because I know, like, I didn't know what kind of shape the other ladies ran, and everyone is very good. It wasn't a super in-depth field, but very, very good quality up top. So I didn't know what kind of shape the other athletes were in, but I just knew we were in good shape. So Alan Culpepper met with Alphine and Paige and I the day before the race in the Mead Hotel in Fort Worth and just talked about different scenarios that could possibly happen. And he kind of told us to stay pretty patient and try to work together and just kind of cover moves through about halfway, which is in this race, it's all through downtown Fort Worth, and you run through the cattle stockyards, and it's cobblestones, and that part was painful actually, but yeah, like that's about halfway. And he said after that, you can kind of start racing.
Hi, I'm Christina Yerling-Biro, host of the podcast Pop Culture Confidential. Join me as I go way behind the scenes with some of the most influential people in entertainment and media. Hear actors such as Succession's Brian Cox talk about his favorite characters to play.
There always has to be a mystery. The audience have to be in a situation where they want to know what's going on.
Meet studio execs like Pixar chief Pete Docter and learn his secret on how he makes us cry.
Emotion is our first language.
And so many others who are defining popular culture, from Obama speechwriter David Litt to Top Chef host Padma Lakshmi.
We don't often think about food politically, or we don't want to, but it really is.
Join me. Search for Pop Culture Confidential wherever you get your podcasts.
But what happened is, you have your instructions from your coach and but I think as an athlete, you kind of also, you get into a race and you can kind of sense other people's confidence or fear or what have you. I do much better at races if I can just stay relaxed and kind of, calm and collected, but like I can smile a little bit and I'm not so nervous. And I actually really wasn't like super nervous for this race. I think because I felt so prepared and just excited and grateful. But yeah, I just kind of like, I warmed up with Paige and our friend from Flagstaff, Katja Goldring, and just very light and chill. And, I try not to think about too much before the race. Cause like I do tend to also be an overthinker. And I just think for me, it's better to just not think as much as possible. And I'm kind of just looking for I go through my familiar warm-up routine. And then when I get to races, I'm kind of looking for like a feeling or more of a rhythm versus like exactness, I guess. Yeah, I just felt very at peace that morning. And we got in the race. The first mile is pretty friendly. It's pretty downhill, but we hit 5:15 for the first mile and I was in the lead, and I just felt really comfortable at that pace. And I kind of felt some resistance from the field around me. And so I just made a decision right at mile 1 to just kind of keep that pace. Because I just sometimes, you can kind of sense like athletes are like hesitant to, that's too fast, or, like worried about blowing up later. But we'd been training around that pace in practice. So I felt comfortable with it. And I just think like, we're just really fit right now. So instead of just trying to hang back and like sit with everybody, I just decided that I was going to just try to keep that pace. And then Sihu came with me. And I'm not surprised at all that Alifin came with me. So, we were basically just like probably through like 9 miles. I think we were somewhere between like 5:10 to 5:15. We didn't go any slower than that. But then mile 4, we did drop a 5:03, which, whoops, that was not intentional. But yeah, we were just kind of in a groove and just kind of running together. But I did lead like the majority of the race. Like she was behind me almost the entire time. I think I turned around and I said, good job a couple times. And then I think she like said, ooh, sorry for clipping me a couple times. And that was basically it. But there is no really talking. I think 1, we were running so fast that it was like we were just trying to focus. But 2, I kind of had a feeling that that's what she would do. And, and my thing was like, well, that's what she's sitting on me. But I think she was like nervous about that race because she hadn't been quite there like fully in practice yet. And so, but Alifin gets in shape very, very quickly. And she also has a huge conversion factor to sea level. So like, and she's such a competitor, even if she doesn't maybe have the best workout, like she's such a gamer, like she'll be there. And so, my whole thing was like, well, I'm just going to try to, stay this pace and then hopefully I can run away with it. And that ended up not happening. But, that's just kind of how racing goes. I've had kind of a wonky right hip for, it seems like months, and it's pretty manageable now, but sometimes it just kind of doesn't feel great. And that was kind of bugging me through the whole race. And then when we hit, there is this monster hill at mile 10. And I think it's like maybe short of 800 meters, but it feels like oh my gosh, like a mile long. It's like so, it's just gradual and like steep enough that it makes a difference. And so we got to the top of that hill and my right hip just kind of was feeling pretty cranky. And then I think, Alafine, again, like I can sense how other people are feeling. They can sense how I'm feeling. So I think she smelled blood. And then she kind of like right at the top of the hill, put in a little surge, and I covered it a little bit, but I wasn't really on her. And then that was pretty much where the race for me was lost. Was she got about a 10-second lead on me because she kind of just pushed it. And then I pretty much stayed the same pace. And then fell off a little bit too, because on mile 13, because there's another just cruel hill at mile 13 when you're so tired. But yeah, it was one of those, at that point, it was like, she wasn't getting necessarily like away from me anymore. Like she wasn't opening up a lead, but we were just kind of like running the same pace. I was just behind her. So that's pretty much, I was trying to get her. she kept saying like, I could smell you behind me chomping at the bit. And I'm like, yeah, I know I was but I mean, that's racing. And if I'm going to lose, I'm happy to lose to my teammate who is, the Olympic marathon trials champion. Yeah, so it was a really fun, really hard race. And I have to say, like Alafine and I were talking about afterwards how like that course was just a beast. Like cobblestones, hills, like 90-degree turns, 80-degree turns, like just the camber of the road was off. And it was pretty tough, but like also really fun. Like I love road racing. It's so much fun. They had like bands playing and like, I don't know, it was cool. But yeah, it does sting a little bit to be so close to your first national championship and not get it, and do so much work for it. So like, yeah, that's stuff, but that's just like part of racing. It's not like anyone is going to just hand you one, So yeah, it was definitely good. I think, I had been feeling really rusty and now I don't feel that way anymore. Like I feel like this was a really good step in the right direction, because I just thought maybe after last year, like I lost it, or like I didn't have the racing instincts anymore, or like, I wouldn't get back to where I was. And now it's like, I think I'm okay now. And like, I feel like fitness wise, I'm farther ahead than I've ever been. And so like, I'm just trying to do everything I can to just keep myself healthy now. So I'm really excited about that. Like, I just feel very grateful for that reason too. Like, no, I still have it.
Lauren clearly has a lot of fierce racing coming up in her future. And before we move forward, I just wanted to say thank you so much to Lauren for coming on the podcast to share what went down at the half marathon. Congratulations once again to her on her great finish and a really gutsy performance. I'm really looking forward to what comes next for her and her teammates. And speaking of things coming up, I couldn't help but notice that Lauren's blazing time of 1:09 gets her well under the 1:12 qualifying standard for the Olympic Trials Marathon, which is coming up next year in Orlando, Florida. So, of course, I had to ask. So I'm going to let her take it from here and close out the episode. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Women's Running Stories. I am Cherie Turner. I am wishing you healthy, happy strides forward. And here's Lauren to tell us if the marathon is in her future.
Yeah, I'm planning on, I'll see you in Orlando. Yeah, I'm going to debut in the marathon at Grandma's Marathon on June 17. And I am so excited, but also very, very intimidated right now. So I think I just have to like get into some training, but I'm really excited about it. Yeah, like I'm just on this team with so many good marathoners, and like Alan and Ben Rosario just know how to coach that event. And so I'm really excited to try it. It's also just seems so daunting because I've never been there before. It's, way longer than anything I've ever done. I've never even run a 20-mile long run before, but I've kind of been catching the bug the last couple of years just from watching my teammates and like how exciting and rewarding it can be, but also devastating. So it's definitely a little, it's a little intimidating right now. Like, I mean, I know for my first half marathon, like at the time, I felt the same way about a half as I did about a full. It's like, I've never done this. Workouts are so long. Like, what am I doing? But then I think for me, again, it kind of ties in with like trying not to overthink as much, because I am just I'm a planner. I'm kind of analytical. I'm also pretty intuitive, and I try to like tune into that side of me when I'm racing more than just like thinking too much, or maybe having a balance of the two, I would think, because, that's how I kind of was thinking about, that first mile when nobody wanted to go with us. I was like, well, I'm just going to keep going. And that's more the analytical side. But then you like turn and then you just kind of like channel into your more intuitive side, where you're just like, I'm just going after a feeling, and I'm just going to like instinctually race now, so I'm kind of trying to approach the full with the same kind of curiosity as I did for my first half, where it's like, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm not going to count out that something amazing could happen too. And then I'm sure I might have a moment of like panic somewhere in there, like, I'm really doing this. But yeah, like, I think hopefully, like I'll have like all my teammates around me. They can just be like, Lauren, like this is the rite of passage. Like, we've all kind of felt this way before for our first ones. And even every time you do it, because you're not guaranteed anything in a marathon, really. So yeah, so that's kind of the attitude I'm bringing into it.
Women's running. Women's running stories.
Hi, I'm Christina Yerling-Biro, host of the podcast Pop Culture Confidential. Join me as I go way behind the scenes with some of the most influential people in entertainment and media. Hear actors such as Succession's Brian Cox talk about his favorite characters to play.
There always has to be a mystery. The audience have to be in a situation where they want to know what's going on.
Meet studio execs like Pixar chief Pete Docter and learn his secret on how he makes us cry.
Emotion is our first language.
And so many others who are defining popular culture, from Obama speechwriter David Litt to Top Chef host Padma Lakshmi.
We don't often think about food politically, or we don't want to, but it really is.
Join me. Search for Pop Culture Confidential wherever you get your podcasts.